Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for coming to our Star Trek Year in Review panel. My name's Jira Hodge, and I'm one of the co-hosts of Women at Warp, a Roddenberry Star Trek podcast. And I'm going to let the co-panelists introduce themselves. I'll start with Sue.
Hi, I'm Sue. I'm also from Women at Warp.
Kennedy.
Hi, I'm Kennedy. Hold on, I don't have my pips on. I'm out of uniform. Sorry, guys. It's Kennedy.
It's been a year.
Storm Tribble. Excited to get into this. Hello.
Hi, and Eliza.
Is it me?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry. My audio, I guess, is cutting out again today. I didn't hear my name. Hi, I'm Eliza Pearl. I'm also of Women at Warp.
Awesome. And joining us from our sister podcast on the Roddenberry Network is Allison. Do you want to introduce yourself, Allison?
Hi, I'm Allison. Allison Pitt. No relation to Allison Pill. And yes, I'm the host of Daily Star Trek News. And I would just want to say thank you to Women at Warp for having me. This is good fun. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's
this is awesome.
Yeah. So if you had that on your bingo card, you can mark that off. Yeah, we thought, it's been quite a year. And but what has kept us going through all of it has been Star Trek, and there has been so much good new Star Trek this year. And we wanted to take a bit of time to chat about the most memorable on-screen moments for us, as well as some of the ways that we saw the fandom change for to meet the needs of our times with virtual events like this one, and other cool events that have happened around the fandom this year. We are going to remember some of the people we lost in the world of Star Trek, and also talk about our wish list for 2021 in Star Trek. So without further ado, let's get started, and we're going to talk about highlights from on-screen Trek in 2020. So who would like to go first?
I'll go first. Stay on brand. For me, it's been twofold. Not only did Lower Decks come out this year, and apparently we all needed comedic Trek in our lives and didn't know, but this was also the first time I watched Discovery at all. I discovered Discovery this year from season 1 onward. So this has just been like the year of disco for me. So just all around better representation in the art form, and also just Black women in powerful spaces. Like, let's go. I'm with it.
That's awesome. Did you want to go next, Eliza?
Sure. For me, the highlight of 2020 Star Trek was Star Trek Discovery Season 3. I forget which episode it was. I was trying to look it up real quick. I also don't remember the name of the actor or the character, so sorry. But the episode where it's like maybe episode 2 of the season, the guy who's just been holding out and waiting for the Federation, like to find other Federation people. That moment was just like, oh, it's so good. It's just perfect. It's just perfect. And I also have loved season 3 of Discovery in general, and I think it was a big, bold, exciting move for them to take it so far into the future, and it has been paying off. And that moment kind of encapsulates everything about Disco season 3 so far.
Yeah, absolutely. And, seeing a couple comments that not everyone has watched up to the latest one. So we'll try to be like not super specific, but I think that was pretty safe. I think that moment where they encounter the guy that's been holding it all together was almost kind of what I wanted for Discovery from day one. Like, show us how people keep it together in the most challenging of times, because that's kind of what we're living through. And I feel like this whole season has been kind of like a just an allegory for the times we're living in, and it's pretty great. Sue, sorry.
The character's name is Aditya Sahil, by the way.
Thank you.
Oh, and the actor is Adil Hussein.
There he is.
Great. Thank you.
I have a feeling there are going to be multiple cat removals this evening. She's in a mood. Let's see. I think my personal favorite moment was not an on-screen one this year in Star Trek. I had the incredible opportunity to be on the cruise this year, on Star Trek The Cruise, just a few days after Ken Mitchell made his ALS diagnosis public. And that was his first appearance after telling everyone about that. And the the welcome he got was so heartwarming, but also his participation in the cruise, his excitement to be there, wanting to spend time with everybody, taking pictures, against the company's policies. It was all so lovely and so wonderful, and like a true example of Star Trek community was happening on that ship the first week of March, which is kind of mind-blowing to look back on.
Very true. So Allison, do you want to throw in an on-screen moment?
Yeah. First of all, I'd like to say that I'm annoyed with all of you that none of you said any of the things that I have on my list because I brought backups, and now I might have to I'm going to choose two. I'm going to have to say two because I love them
totally fine.
I mean, I can get into my list. I made a list. I was being kind. I was being gracious because you're a guest.
You do the news show. That's why you're here.
So the first one that I wrote down was the appearance of Troy and Riker on Star Trek Picard. It was just such a wonderful sort of coda to those characters, and the tone of how they brought them back and the relationship that they had with Picard was just such a callback to the before times, and then also it was just wonderful to see. I just love them all so much. So that was it. And then I also wrote down the sarcastic Vulcan salute, because that to me is like like I do that all the time now, right? And just Lower Decks in general, like that show continually surprised me with how like intelligent and compassionate it was, and like the bit where he's like, "Oh, bears," and they shuffle him onto all the different jobs on the ship is, that was prime Star Trek to me.
Well, I mean, the one that I was going to say is also from Picard, which is 7 of 9 on Picard. In my opinion, is the best of the 7s of 9, 7 of 9s. And, I mean, she's just so multi-dimensional, and like having the backstory that she had with Voyager makes it so much like still really powerful, because you can see that shift, and then plus she gets to wear super comfy sweaters. And I mean, I hope that we'll see more of her queerness more explicitly in season 2. It was like a little bit tacked on at the end there, but I was super here for 7 of 9 in Picard. It was my favorite part of Picard, hands down.
My favorite part of Picard was when she plugged into that cube. I lost my mind. Okay, I lost my mind. Yes. Picard was kind of a slow burn for me. I'm not going to hold you. I did get some like old man patronizing, like white savior vibes that I just kind of wasn't down with. But when Homegirl plugged into that cube, I said, "Oh, let's go! Let's go!" Of course, it me crushed that all her drones were flushed away, like directly afterwards, was heartbreaking. But hell yeah, comfy sweaters too, Jared. That's a really good point. I didn't think about that. Free 7's ribcage.
Does anyone else throw in some more on-screen moments?
I mean, if we're going down the list, because I have more time to jump in. I definitely compiled some, and was like, no, Allison's going to be on. Don't hog like the airtime. Just be nice. So yeah, seeing 7 plug into the cube, Discovery in general, Lower Decks in general, but specifically character-wise, Beckett Mariner, Carol Freeman, and Michael Burnham. Like we went from having Uhura as Starfleet officers, and that was pretty much it, with the exception of like, Captain La Silva and a bunch of other auxiliary characters, but never on bridge, on uniform since Uhura. So to see not 1, not 2, but 3 fully fleshed out, completely different women, not encompassing all of, Black culture as if we're a monolith, but showing that there's like complexities and nuances and all that, was just like, tastes like success is what it tastes like. I'm just so very pleased. But seeing Hugh again was my other big one.
Yeah.
I didn't know I had such an emotional attachment to Hugh until that happened, and then I'm like ugly crying.
Yeah.
I just so many great things that happened. But those others rather in particular, were definitely on my list for sure.
Yeah, I'll throw in another one. I also loved in Picard a couple of things about Picard. First of all, the Data stuff, all of the, finding out, uncovering the things about Data that had happened after we last saw him on screen. I also loved, I thought visually Picard was gorgeous. And like when they actually get to the lovely little planet, I don't want to give spoilers, but y'all know, if you saw it, you know what I'm talking about. Once they get to the place they're going, it's just like really visually stunning and has strong like TOS vibes. And yeah, that's, I'll add those two things too for on-screen things that I loved.
I really loved when we got Picard and Hugh together, and he's sort of explaining the XBs to Picard and turns them from the monsters that they are in Picard's eyes into victims. Because, that's what they are, survivors. And one of the things he says, I think might be my favorite line from the whole season, Hugh says, I think it's a new name can be the first step to a new identity, which is just beautiful in and of itself. And we on National Coming Out Day tweeted that line with an image of Hugh and captioned it, Hugh says trans rights, and got a response from Jonathan Del Arco that was exactly what he was putting into that line when he said it. And it just kind of like full circle, almost a little bit of a moment. So I loved it. Loved that part.
Cool. So
Definitely.
Cool.
Can I interject with another sort of a person appearance? Is David Cronenberg has been a surprising highlight for me. I am like not a Cronenberg fan. I don't really know his work at all, but his for a couple of reasons. Number one, I love his performance and I love his style and everything else. His characterization and the way that they've designed that character is something that to me feels super new and fresh in Star Trek, even though it's like anachronistic and old. Like the fact that this is a dude who wears glasses and hearing aids and a suit all the time, and they're like fine with it, is cool to me, and I'm excited that he's coming back for the next season too. So yeah, he's been a bright spot. I get excited every time he turns up on screen.
Yeah, how about it? And it's such a cool nod to the sci-fi genre in general, right? People who are fans of his work, when we saw him, was like, oh, is that David Cronenberg? And the fact that, like you said, he's wearing glasses in this, distant, quote unquote healthy future is like kind of a throwback to, it just did a really good job of anchoring people's perception of what science fiction is as in all of its complexities while keeping it in Trek in the most updated show, which is doubly important because then you start adding other like sci-fi fantasy genre actor favorites, like the addition of Oded Fehr. Like what
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, didn't know we needed it. Didn't know I needed David Cronenberg in Star Trek. I thought I was good. Apparently, I have been living my life completely wrong until this point.
You never know. Yeah, you never know what you see
and Oded Fehr, like if I had compiled all my list of actors that I would have loved to see in Trek, Oded Fehr I would have never ranked because I didn't think I would ever get a chance. And here he is, big bad daddy admiral too. Like let's go. Let's go.
Yeah, is it Kovich, the David Cronenberg character?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Kovich, yeah.
So about
That's
him.
His name Kovich? When did they ever name him?
That's what Marina said in her comment. Thank you, Marina. But yeah, about that character, what I and you kind of like touched on this, Kennedy, but like I just wanted to touch on it again. Like that, I as much as I love Discovery, I think that actually has been something that's been missing from Discovery, that little bit of like quirky magical thing, because every other series has it. There's always some weird alien that shows up that is actually not super hard sci-fi based, not based in any like actual scientific possibilities, and it's just kind of magic. And so now Discovery has that character. So I thought that was like a really great thing that we didn't know we were missing until it showed up.
Can we
Yeah.
say it's a highlight just how much new Star Trek we got this year?
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Oh my
We
God.
kind of glossed
30
over that bit, but yeah. 3 new
33
series.
weeks,
Yeah.
23 of which were in a row. Basically, the last 6 months, we've had new Star Trek every week, almost. 60% of the year, we've had new Star Trek.
Like,
It's
just,
unbelievable.
What? 3 series on at the same time. But
This is
the thing
beautiful.
about this year is that it's not like having TNG, DS9, Voyager, Enterprise so close together, because each of these shows is so different. They've got different creative teams, they've got different styles, they've got different aesthetics, they've got different target audiences. So, like, I know people are talking in Trek Twitter or whatever about franchise fatigue, but if this is the model that each
Yeah, I
show
know,
is
like-
going to have
What?
its own sensibility, then I don't think this is going to be an issue.
Who said
Totally.
that? Point them out. I need receipts.
I
Who
mean-
said anything about franchise fatigue? How?
Just go
You
on
got-
Twitter.
I-
Don't go on Twitter. Save
Or
yourself.
don't. Yeah. Yeah.
But I feel like Adira also deserves a shout out.
Absolutely.
I think that just their storyline and also just the way that Discovery is incorporating like more explicitly the idea of a chosen family is super powerful, and we're seeing how much this means to a lot of viewers, and I think it's great.
Yeah, I'm really glad that, they properly pronounced Adira eventually, because that was getting difficult to not only write, but also
Yeah.
like
do you talk
refer to the person at the same time. So I'm just really glad that they addressed it, that the characters just like accepted it and moved on and just normalized it, like, so we can get to more
Yeah.
pressing things like
Yeah.
Disco hasn't saved the world enough times. Here's another fabric of space and time you have to save us too. Sorry, guys.
But it wasn't like
Yeah.
just a weird alien thing. It wasn't like this is because I have an alien thing in me.
Right,
It
right.
was like this is I've always felt like this, and everyone goes,
Yeah.
"Cool, moving on."
Yeah.
The
I like that they
pronoun-
provided a blueprint for kids, not kids,
Mhm.
but any
That's-
people as well.
yeah.
It was very fast, and it was almost blink if you miss it, but they gave some very sensible, good wording that for the next person that wants to come out to their family or friends as non-binary and literally doesn't know what to say, there's literally a blueprint there. I thought it was great.
And
Yeah, and
the
showing,
show made
I know
it
I saw
clear.
some comments about how like, oh, it's so dated that they did that, and in the future it's not going to matter. But it's actually really important that they showed that moment of a non-binary person saying their pronouns and having like coming out in that moment, because we need to see those moments. We need to like universalize and normalize those moments, and also like, yes, in the future it hopefully will become more the norm, and it'll be more just accepted in the moment like it was, but that moment's still going to be there. Like there are certain things like, adolescence is always going to be adolescence. We're not going to outgrow things like coming out and adolescence and certain, like deciding certain big things about our lives that we're going to open up about. Those decisions aren't going to change. So it was good to like just kind of put a stamp and say, here it is for this character. And it was also, for me, it was like getting confusing before that moment, because I was like, wait, so, I mean, it's totally fine to have like, non-binary actor playing a character who is binary. But I was like, well, what was the point if they're just going to have them play a few? I was so confused. But yeah, I was so glad that they just said it, did it, put it out there.
Yeah.
I think the confusion came from the fact that the creators came out and told us the character was going to be using they, them pronouns, right?
Yeah.
And I just quickly wanted to make the point that, not all non-binary people use they, them pronouns. So
Right.
it's not a requirement by any means, but it definitely got confusing when they were gendering a non-binary person. But to Aliza, to your point about it not being a big deal, it wasn't a big deal, right? Adira established their pronouns, and the characters in the room said, "Oh, okay, cool."
Yeah.
And it
But
wasn't
even-
an argument.
Yeah.
It wasn't a big deal.
Right.
So that's exactly what everybody wants, right? Just like, oh,
Right,
all right,
yeah.
that's what you want? Cool. Let's move on.
If anything, Stamets and Colbert were like, okay,
yeah.
I see you. Assert yourself, hun. Do you need something
Right.
to eat?
It was. It was.
What? So it was very like, okay, that's cool. You can use whatever pronouns you want, but I'm still your space dad. And when I say you don't beam down to a planet without us knowing, you don't beam down to a planet without us knowing, you know?
Mhm.
Their response to Adira saying their pronouns was almost like, oh, we see you. Like that's what I felt in that
Mhm.
moment. Like the look on their faces was like, we get, yes, okay, we see you fully.
Right.
Yeah. And even like the right before Adira said it, they seemed a little bit nervous. There was that moment of, okay, I'm gonna say it. And again, I just really like just the full picture of that moment internally that they let us see, instead of it being like, oh yeah, I'm they, them, whatever. It was actually like a moment that they had to take before they said it out loud. That was
Right.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I feel like now is a good time to shift gears a little bit and look at more of broader things in the fandom. This could be events like Sue talked about earlier, some of the virtual events we've seen. It could be some of the news, some new releases of merch or licensed books or comics, anything that was exciting or memorable to you outside of the on-screen world.
So the thing that's happening in our comment section
Mhm.
that we haven't talked about yet is the
Yeah.
announcement that Kate Mulgrew will be returning as Janeway for Prodigy on Nickelodeon.
Yeah.
I think that might be the single biggest piece of news for the year. Would you say, Allison?
Sure. Sorry, I'm so overwhelmed. I
was a big
prepping for this
question.
and I realized how many hundreds of articles we've published on the show that actually I was reading through going, oh, that happened this year. So
Mhm.
yeah, in terms of old, like because all the Picard stuff really was sort of from last year. But yeah, in terms of rebooting old bits of Star Trek, yeah, that was a pretty big one. Yeah.
Yeah, she got a statue and everything.
Mm.
Like,
Yes, it finally. It took a little while.
That was
They were
pretty
so disappointed because it was supposed to come out, I think, on her birthday, in May. I want to say, I think it was, and then they kept delaying it, and eventually they got it done. So that's great for them.
yeah. Here for
Yeah.
Yeah.
it. God, it's Kate
Oh, I
Deserve.
have one
Yep.
non on-screen thing. The Garishir performance of Little Achievements on Sid City Social
Oh
Club.
my gosh.
You know, I'm not a huge shipper, and I'm not a huge like fanfic reader, but I recognize the significance of that to the fanfic community and the shipping community, to have Andrew Robinson and Alexander Siddig buy into that and do that performance together was really, really wonderful. And it totally made me get all emotional when I watched it, because those two, I mean, if you've ever watched DS9, those two have always had chemistry, like always from day one, whether you ship them or not. And watching them do that performance was, I mean, it's so many years, like decades later, and they still have that chemistry, and they're not young men anymore. And it was just wonderful. And for all those people that desperately ship them and have done for decades, like that moment for them must have been pretty amazing. So yeah, that for me is the non-on-screen highlight of the year.
I guess my non-on-screen. No, in fact, I know my non-screen favorite thing this year was joining the crew. Like, that's been it's been nothing short of freaking dope. And granted that only happened in August, which feels like ages ago.
Oh my god! Wow.
But it feels like years and years and years ago. Like Sue was saying about the cruise being in March. Like, y'all remember Tiger King? Like 30 years ago?
Oh my god!
30 years ago? Oh, you mean this year? Joining Women at Warp has been like transformative. It's opened my horizons up to, you all fabulous people, but then it's also gotten me involved with Trek Twitter, which I was never much of a Twitter person, really. Like, you pop in every once in a while, live tweet a movie that you've seen for the first time ever. I don't know, whatever. And that was it. But now it's like, oh, there's community. There's friends. I'm meeting people and I'm staying in touch with people and doing cool YouTube videos and, meeting Ciroc Lofton, which I never thought was going to happen. Thank you, Elisa, by the way, and Improvised Generation for that. Like, just being a part of this has been so, like, I'm trying to watch my language and not.
Oh, do we have to do that?
I'm trying. I'm gonna make an effort because I know that I can sound like a full-blooded sailor if I wanted to. So it's just been amazing. And the people that I've met through it. It's just really good stuff.
Well, definitely, I would say a highlight for all of us, expanding the crew too, and include you and Eliza and Sarah, who couldn't be with us tonight. But yeah, I feel like the like virtual events that have sprung up, even though like at the beginning there was so much going on, it was kind of hard to keep track. But I think it's been really encouraging and like heartwarming to see how these events, especially like virtual TrekCon, I think has gone like particularly well and really balanced the kind of like panels with celebrities with like fan stuff, but also just fan interaction, and really like filled a gap that was there with people who are like looking for more social connection and connection with our Trek community and kind of crappy times. So that's been great. And it's also given us a chance to see those things, like the Sid City Social Club, and like see the actors in kind of a different environment. Like we have like Nana Visitor teaching cocktails and baking on Instagram. I would say like a highlight from Trek Twitter this year was like recently when like a troll was coming after Marina, being like, when was the last time, Marina Sirtis, like when was the last time you were relevant? And she's like, oh, I don't know, it was a week ago when the Royal Mail called to ask if I could be on a stamp.
It was wonderful. That was the best.
Patrick Stewart reading sonnets.
Yes, Patrick Stewart reading sonnets, sometimes with cats.
I remember I could not believe when he started that. I was totally pessimistic about whether he was going to be able to do it. Is it like 157 or something like that? I thought there's no way this is ever going to last, because when he started it, this was like when we were all like, yeah, we have to lock down for 2 weeks and then we'll go back to normal. And then like I couldn't believe it when he's there in a tuxedo reading the last one. I was like,
well, not to mention, like, I will shout him out for also skipping some of the like sexist ones. He's like, I don't like this one. It's awful to women. I'm just gonna skip it. And it's like, cool. Like, yes, this is part of the reason we love you.
Yeah. How about it? Like, we all keep mentioning Sid City in those readings. So I caught like the first one and like half of the next one, and I know there's been a bunch since, but I was only able to get through that many because I felt like I shouldn't have been watching it. Like I felt like this was a private conversation between these characters, and I had like hacked some type of like subspace frequency to like listen in on their calls. It was like, oh, I'm gonna get a court martial for this. It's just too juicy. This is just too juicy, and I couldn't. Some things you can, especially with fan stuff, or even if there aren't actors involved, like sometimes you can kind of, keep that fourth wall there and watch it. But Sid City is too much. I feel like if I can see Siddig, he can see me. And I'm never, ever, this is not all the time. Like, this is not a regular, I didn't wake up like this. And I can't have Siddig looking at me when I look normal. So it was very much like, I can't. It's like that commercial where this kid's like, I need to meet Mickey Mouse in his first time to Disney World. And then he sees Mickey and he's just like that. That's how I feel when I try to watch Sid City. I'm like, well, this is going to be good. Oh God. Oh.
They invented like a whole nother kind of performance, a whole nother kind of fan performance with these things. Like it's not a fan film, it's not a fanfic, it's like in between, and it's totally compelling. Yeah, but with faces and people and guest stars and like it's a whole.
Yeah, you can get all like intimate with a person, be like, ooh, you let your mind do the imagination, the visualization of this actor, this character that you loved for like 30 some years. When they're looking at you, it's like, wow, I don't need you to see me see you when I
mean, it's a staged reading, right?
Yeah, but it's like really close up on their face. It's like if you're sitting in the middle of the table at a table read, like everyone's talking to you.
It's not even like a table read. Like, this is in Sadiq El Fadil's house. Like, this is his house.
Yeah,
This is
yeah.
his
It's a
computer.
little.
It's his chair. Those are his glasses. Like,
Yep.
Sir.
That's one of the more interesting things about the virtual events, I think, is seeing where the guests are
Mhm.
streaming from.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
my living room is clearly not fancy, but like, I want to see everybody else's now.
Yeah.
Are they streaming their kitchen or like, you know, there was somebody, one of them was like in a hotel room and I was like, they're in a hotel room. This is weird. So yeah, you definitely feel a little voyeuristic.
Oh yeah, you're
checking out
definitely
the background.
There was one
behind him,
where
seeing-
Bob Picardo was just walking around his house, like while doing the event. Like, all right.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Elisa, you've done like a ton of streaming stuff outside of Women at Warp this year. Did you have any of those that were particular highlights?
Yes, the Klingon Day of Honor was like, oh my god, getting to do the panel, moderate the panel with all the Star Trek Discovery Klingons and Klingon experts was a dream. It was so fun. And yeah, that was definitely like my online highlight this year. I don't know if I'll top that ever.
Well, and now you're doing like Klingon baking on Instagram, which I'm a big fan of.
Excuse me.
I am. Yeah, the Klingon baking. I feel so grateful that that came together because it literally was like I had to shoot a sketch, and they were like, "Can you be a Klingon in this sketch?" And I was like, "Sure." Did Klingon, and then I wanted to go bake a pound cake, and I was like, "Let me just bake this pound." Oh, let me just turn on the camera. It literally was just like Eliza being Eliza in like a series of moments, and then it turned into Klingon baking.
The moral of the story is that all your COVID hobbies could be more Klingon.
I mean, yeah. Like just add a little Klingon to everything.
Just the tagline, gluten is without honor. I think is
Yes.
it put me, you said it with such conviction that it put me in a state of like existential introspection because I am with honor, right?
But you need gluten.
I'm gluten tolerant. So, and I happen to love gluten very much. It keeps me very well insulated and it's cold on the East Coast. So, you know.
I am so glad to hear that you still enjoy the videos because the thing is, I am gluten intolerant and gluten has caused me so much fucking pain being a Klingon talking about gluten being without honor was actually like healing for me in a weird way.
It made it so good. Like I was literally eating a sandwich at the time when I saw this. I'm scrolling and I saw it. And I looked at my sandwich like, you are without honor.
Oh my gosh. So one thing I wanted to shout out from like things that came out this year perspective was Una McCormack's Star Trek Picard novel. Like we all had complicated feels about Picard and we recorded like an 1.5 hour long episode on it back when it finished the season 1. And then we did a book club on the Una McCormack novel and it is so good. It's like bleak because it's a prequel novel and it has to end up at the very bleak start of the show. But it like the way that she describes the politics in the Federation leading up to Picard was like it really hit all my like political Star Trek nerd buttons.
Ooh,
Nice.
All right, now I gotta read it because I'm obsessed.
that sounds good. Mhm.
That's cool. We'll wait.
Right now. But speaking of Una McCormack, I mean, she also wrote the autobiography of Catherine Janeway that was published much more recently, but also this year. Which
That was also this year? Oh my
I
God.
think it was
Yeah.
re-released this year.
No.
Or like
no, Catherine Janeway was released in October of this year.
Yeah.
Picard was
It's been announced for a while.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. No
It
wonder I
had
was
been
like,
coming and kept getting
Yeah.
pushed back, but it did come out this year. And it also like just the way she writes, just to praise Una McCormack for a little while.
Yes. Yes,
It
doctor.
focuses on characters that we don't always get, and especially in this Janeway book, there's we have previous Janeway history books, biographical books in the stories that Jerry Taylor wrote, but when McCormack writes them, she's focusing kind of on her relationships with other women, mentor relationships and friend relationships that you don't get in the Jerry Taylor books. And it's just yay, Una McCormick. Let her write everything, please.
We are fans. So we should probably move on, but hopefully we'll have some more time at the end. We're also going to take questions and comments, so type them in if you have them. But at this point, we're going to take a bit of a quick moment to remember some of the people that we lost from the Star Trek community this year. So we have a little bit of a slideshow. Then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about our wish list for 2021 and take your questions. Okay. Thanks so much, Sue, for putting that together. That was really lovely and amazing to see. Remember all those people who contributed to our fandom in various ways. So, looking ahead to 2021, what do we want to see? We know some things to expect, although maybe I can call on someone like Sue or Allison to give us a bit more of a reminder of like what we actually are expecting to come in 2021.
Well, I think it's changed, right? Because previously, we had been expecting, Picard season 2, Strange New Worlds, Discovery season 4,
Lower Deck season 2.
Lower Deck season 2, maybe the Section 31 show, perhaps.
Yeah, Section 31 was supposed to start filming earlier this year, actually.
But with COVID, I think the only schedule that is not affected necessarily would be that of the animated shows.
Yeah, Lower Decks and Prodigy, I think, are still expected on time. I don't know when, because like what happened with Lower Decks and Discovery Season 3 this year, their readiness will not necessarily dictate when they'll air, because they'll use that strategically when it makes the most sense for those platforms.
Yeah, but the next live action Trek that we get will probably be Disco Season 4. And that's filming now. Though that's the only one filming currently.
Yeah, Strange New Worlds is going to start in January.
I thought 31 was, or Section 31 had started.
Section 31 has not started. It's not like, we haven't had any news about that. Strange New Worlds is starting in Toronto in January, and Picard is starting around now. Or sorry, Strange New Worlds is starting in February. Picard is starting in January in LA. But like right now, like the LA County is like, so we're just going to ask you really nicely not to film anything. We can't really stop you, but probably best if you don't. So I don't know about Picard, but
we don't really know when we're going to get live action Trek again.
Yeah,
So
Toronto's going.
All you animated Trek haters better buckle up and shut up, because that's all you're gonna get. You're either gonna be like begrudgingly getting over yourself, or you're gonna be miserable.
That's me. I gotta give Lower Decks another chance then.
Oh, Elisa.
Yeah, we haven't talked about this, Kennedy. I know. I'm not trying to burst people's bubbles.
I am. Oh, if I had a mech left, I would throw it right now. Like, that's how.
You have to understand. I'm a yes, I'm a Trekkie, but I'm also like a comedy person. I've written comedy. I do comedy and improv. It's hard for me to watch Lower Decks because it's like, oh, I would have done this show so much differently. But that said, I've decided to I didn't finish watching the whole first season. I watched the first 2 or 3 episodes, couldn't get on board. I decided to give it a good long rest, give it some space, and then I'm going to go back and watch it again.
Please do.
Give it another chance.
Look, what were we saying 40 minutes ago?
What's that?
What were we saying 40 minutes ago? That each show is for a different audience.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's true.
With other Star Trek, I was mad for a few weeks about how much I didn't like Lower Decks, and then I was like, oh well, whatever. There's so much other stuff.
Yeah, right. I guess
fast forward on to the next one.
And this is probably me projecting. It's definitely me projecting. Like I said, I waited till this year to start watching Disco. Like I was just like, what is this? Why are they in the past? What do I need this for? Why is this ship all fancy but it's pre-Kirk? This doesn't make any sense. And missed out. I missed out. Season 1 is still my favorite. I missed out on experiencing that and watching that with everybody and going through, everybody else's feels at the same time. I missed out on Enterprise. And when that was on the air, I didn't watch that until, I want to say a couple of years back when I was studying for a panel. That's coming into its 20th anniversary this year.
Oh, yeah.
So I know, we old Trek girls now. We old girls. Old girls is old at this point. So I don't want, and this could be Trek auntie in me, right? I don't want anyone to miss out on something because they're like, I don't like it because I did that and it sucked.
Yeah, but I think here's the issue I was having is that, and I'm not going to get into it about Lower Decks. I'm talking about on my end. I was so not enjoying it that I was forcing myself to watch each new episode, and that's not good either. You know what I mean? Because I was then spewing all this hatred about it to friends who were liking the show. And that was not kind to them. It was I needed to go vent about it to other people who disliked it, but then everyone liked it. So I was like, damn it. So I did need that space. And yes, you're right. I'm kind of missing it, hopefully, I'll watch the whole first season and fall in love with it, or season 2 or whatever. But I think it's just, I'm not on the bandwagon, and that's kind of where it's at.
That's totally fair. All I know is that when I search for Star Trek gifts, Mariner pops up and you pop up, Elisa. So you're gonna have to You didn't know you had Trek gifts? You had to know you had Trek gifts.
I know, but I didn't know
She's got Instagram ones too.
Yeah,
I didn't know it's popping up right,
You were one of the main ones on Instagram that comes up all the time.
You get your Kirk, you get your Spock, you get your Picard, right? Occasionally you might get the Riker thigh, but it's definitely Mariner and Elisa. And I'm like,
I know her. She's on our crew.
I know 50% of those brown girls.
Oh, that makes me feel so many things. Oh my god.
Okay, so in the realm of possibility for next year, what's on your wish list?
I'm hyped for the Centennial.
The Centennial.
The Roddenberry Centennial.
I'm hyped for the
Oh.
Roddenberry Centennial
Mm.
because I feel like after all this time, after such a long-standing, well-established franchise, property, art form, however you want to describe this phenomenon that we all love so dearly, 100 years of influence, whether it be through Gene personally or through his work, after he's passed, is impactful enough that it deserves this type of event. And now that Trek has become so inclusive and progressive to incorporate people in marginalized communities at all different intersections, this is the time to kind of regroup and, kind of put everybody in one big happy starship, because whether you like the animated ones or don't, or, love quote unquote old Trek and hate quote unquote new Trek, you're all Trekkers. We're all in this ship together. I don't give a shit if you're happy about being on the lower decks or not. Guess what? We're all in this boat. So this is the time to address a lot of issues that we've been having in the community. This is the time to celebrate a lot of triumphs that we've had in the community. And reintroduce ourselves to each other in a new way that we don't have to worry about adhering to anybody's rules for.
I love that idea of unifying, because Roddenberry is the thing that all of these different Star Trek iterations have in common, is that they were inspired by that original vision of Gene Roddenberry. And I also, just thinking back, Kennedy, to when you said Enterprise is coming up on its 20th.
Yes.
And how now we're the old Treks. we're like the middle-aged Trek people now.
Mm-hmm.
It's we're in
okay, boomer. And when I say that, I don't mean the civilian shippers from Enterprise.
The space boomers. Yeah.
I think we're now like the age that original TOS fans were when TNG came out.
Oh my god.
So
I watched Next Gen when it was first run.
yeah. And so
Right.
if you think of our fandom,
If you ever
and how
catch me
it's
doing
evolved-
that, please catch me in the neck, by the way.
No. Hold on to
But
that.
yeah, there's a
because
whole
these new kids don't know what it's like to have to wait a week. At a certain time, have to be in front of your TV. They don't
And then
know.
if you miss the first 10 minutes,
Oh,
yeah, you don't know what
I think
happened.
they're starting to get to know again, but
Yeah, I mean, they are releasing weekly.
but you could just rewind.
yeah, you can rewind it. You can sit and pause and look at all the fun stuff, like the USS Nog. You couldn't have watched that on network TV.
Oh.
You'd had to wait to catch the rerun and hope that you had a tape deck in the VCR at the right time. Listen, they don't know. Old Trek girls are old. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just a digital divide. That's all.
Wow.
Natural.
so on my perpetual wish list, I feel like this has been on my wish list for at least the last few years. It's where are our action figures? We need more action figures.
Oh my God. Can we
this is-
please
You know
get a
what,
disco
though?
line of
Ah,
Barbies?
It's
Let's
killing
get
me.
disco Barbies.
This is why I was really excited to see Funko release disco figures. They just
Yeah.
did Burnham and Saru, but it means that license is still active. And Miko is coming out with, I think, Burnham and Saru as well.
Okay, but they need to actually have parts that move.
No,
I'm not
agreed.
cool with just bobbleheads, and especially if they're so skinny that they can't actually stand up and they just start to fall, list and fall off their stands for women. So Funkos are not sufficient for this wish list, and I'm
I
aware
agree.
that this is sounding a little bit angry, but that's only because it's been a few years.
Thankfully, the Burnham Funko is not so skinny that it falls over.
It is not.
Jara,
But-
I think your anger is completely righteous and dignified. Mattel needs to get over
Take
themselves,
my money, okay?
get with CVS, release a line of Disco Barbie and Kens. And if you want to make extra money, release the Terranverse Disco Barbie and Kens.
Oh god, I would buy that in a heartbeat.
And you
Oh my
and
God.
you better have an
I'm not into
almost
Barbies, but,
heartbeat. You
get
better
that.
have. Oh, I don't give a shit about Barbies, but
Yeah,
those
no.
uniforms in fabric, those characters, let's go. And if you want to make extra money, you'll release variants of Owo Seikun when she doesn't have on makeup, and when she's got the gold eyeliner, and when she got the blue eyeliner. Because we will pay money. We will pay money. We will pay money.
Oh
Take my
God.
money, Mattel. I swear to God, I haven't splurged on a line of figures in a long ass time, but I promise you, I am not the only one who will buy every single one of those Bridge Crew Barbies, and then again in Mirrorverse just because, like, the costuming.
Yeah.
Oh, you throw in a couple Klingons, a 12-inch collector's edition Sarek. Come on, let's go. Put me on your merchandising team.
We have a couple questions that have come in.
Go for it.
The first one specifically for Allison. Do we know of any virtual cons yet for 2021?
Honestly, I'm gonna totally defer to Marina, because Marina in the chat is the one who compiles all the events for Daily Star Trek News. So she's the one with the ear to the ground. She's the absolute expert. I know that we have a couple real cons. I shouldn't say real cons, in-person cons that are scheduled for next year, but I don't know about the virtual ones. So
I think
we don't know about the in-person ones either. So,
I think there are a couple GalaxyCon events for Star Trek coming up.
Yeah.
But I don't know the
I think
exact dates.
I think it's fair to say that those GalaxyCon ones are going to continue on, because they've come up with a good format that they've reproduced in cookie cutter, and they've given a lot of opportunities for people to upgrade. So it's almost zero barrier to entry if you want to participate, but you can still get that that con experience of the one-on-one chat or the autographs. And actually, this is one of the things that's on my wish list for next year, is increased accessibility. Even though we've been forced onto the internet, it's actually increased accessibility for a lot of Star Trek fans who otherwise wouldn't be able to go to a convention or something like that. And now they can get a one-on-one chat with Marina Sirtis, which, by the way, you can't do at a convention. So,
Right.
it's actually helped people a lot. And yeah, I'm all for the GalaxyCon format. It's really, really good.
They tend to be a lot less expensive than a Cameo.
Yeah.
But
I don't
speaking
like
of Marina, question to all panelists: which show, current, next season, or in pre-production, are you most looking forward to, and why?
Strange New Worlds.
Me too.
Return to episodic television, a return to family-friendly television. I hope that they make it something that I can watch with my kids, and less of the swearing, less of the Klingon boobs, and make it episodic so you can dip in and out, please.
My reason for
has any of that been confirmed for Strange New Worlds, or that's just what you want to see?
episodic
has been confirmed. Yeah.
Cool.
I haven't heard anything about ratings or anything like that.
My excitement for Strange New Worlds is in the character of Number One. Mostly, I want to learn so much more about her. I have always wanted to learn so much more about her, and I feel like we're hopefully finally going to give that character her due. My concern with Strange New Worlds is that they are launching a show, and the three main cast that we know of so far are all white, and with the really disgusting behavior and racism that we have seen in the Trek fandom, I have a lot of concerns that a certain part of the fandom is going to latch onto that show and see, look, Star Trek is white again. This is what Star Trek is supposed to be, and conflate episodic television with whiteness. And I really hope that this production crew is, or the production team, the design team, everybody, the casting, are going to be really conscious that they've got three main characters cast and they're all white, and go to the effort to make sure that the Enterprise is not super white. So there's that.
Really good point.
That's a really good point, Sue. Allison, I didn't think about wanting these episodes to be family friendly, because I was just like, hell yeah, Klingon boobs. But knowing now that that I didn't stop to think that, like, oh, hey, Kennedy, all these shows aren't for you personally. Like, other people want to consume them as well. So I was like, oh yeah, that's a good point. But also, Sue, like, holy crap, I thought like, as soon as you said, I don't even want to say it because I don't want it to like take off and Trek Twitter like make it a thing. But I figured that fan group that you're referencing specifically was like all up under Picard's butt because of, reasons. But now I was totally thinking, okay, Brave New World's cool. We'll get to see more about number 1. 2, Ethan Peck. But he squats. He never misses leg day. Vulcan leg days are the greatest thing ever. Side note. But now that I'm thinking about it, like, oh my God, like, you're right. Like, it's got that old Bechdel test failing ratio. And when you've been saturated with things like disco, and even accepting things like Lower Decks to go back like that, it makes me feel like, I don't know, there's a red cap slogan in there that I just want to burn before it's even been made.
Yeah, it's certainly like a pitfall of taking a show that was literally conceived of over 50 years ago, 55 years ago, and bringing those characters back in a time, right? And right, they're sort of backed into a corner in a way, right? Because we have these characters already. Mm-hmm. They are who they are, but you can surround them with a more diverse crew and a more inclusive crew, and you can create additional main characters, right? It doesn't have to be, we're in a new age of television, so it doesn't have to be 3 main characters.
Right.
It can be a bunch of main characters. It can be 7 main characters. It can be DS9 with 52 main characters. So
should we be so lucky?
47, excuse me, not 52.
In the
47.
chat, Anne-Marie says that she saw the casting call and it was all non-white. So fingers crossed. There's okay, cool. I think a lot of exciting stuff. I would guess I'm gonna go like, I'm most safely excited for Lower Decks season 2 because I'm pretty sure I know I'm gonna enjoy it, and like everything else makes me slightly anxious. So I'm like, there's so much drama, and then like the twists and turns and cliffhangers and character deaths and like I love it all, but I also find it a little stressful. So hard to
I'm kind of
like I'm actually excited.
I'm stressed about Picard season 2, but also excited for Guinan. Holy crap!
Yes.
Oh my God!
Right.
So excited for Guinan. I think I'm most excited about Section 31 because that feels like territory that's very unexplored or underexplored. And Michelle Yeoh just like as the lead in the Star Trek series is just it's just too much for me. I'm just like I'm losing it. I'm so excited about Section 31. That's my big one for next year.
That's the one that gives me the most anxiety.
Yeah.
I heard a fan theory just today that the Section 31 show will take place during the Romulan War.
See, that doesn't make me any less anxious. That makes me more anxious.
I'm not sure how I feel about that.
I don't know. Okay,
like I think that Michelle Yeoh is a cinematic living treasure. I think that woman deserves every single petal of all of her flowers. That being said, I can't stand Georgiou. So, it speaks to how good she is of an actor that I can't freaking stand the character. But I also am not really pressed to see a series about her. Section 31 is so shrouded in mystery that, anything could happen. And I love the idea of them busting Trek doors open, but I get nervous.
Totally. And I think it's been like debated ever since they announced it, whether it's going to work in the Star Trek ethos to have a show that's helmed by someone that's like a Terran and a Section 31 person. And like, are you going to be able to still maintain Star Trek values? And I think that'll be a really interesting thing to see.
Well, that's what I'm excited about, because I think forever, like I personally have wanted to see a show that is like the intrigue, the behind the scenes, the the inner workings and machinations of Starfleet Admiralty. And Section 31 is kind of that for me. It feels like it could be that show. It's about spying and I want to see that Star Trek world.
Well, and also like Erica Lippold and Bo-Yeon Kim as the showrunners, I think are like the lead writers, showrunners is like awesome. I love all of the stuff that they've done. And I think having it led by 2 women is fabulous.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree
Plus,
with
if
that.
Ash Tyler comes back, I might be suddenly okay with that.
I'd be okay with that.
Well,
Who knows?
we're butting up against the end of our time here today. Any very final thoughts?
Oh,
I just want to say one real quick thing about the business side of Star Trek, because we haven't talked about that at all. There's some really cool things that are happening next year, and I'm looking forward to hopefully Star Trek being more accessible from an audience perspective, because we've got Paramount Plus starting up in the new year. Pluto TV is worldwide, and they're challenging that with Star Trek channels and things like that. I'm really optimistic about the next year that Viacom CBS is going to make Star Trek even more accessible to more people, and then we'll have a wider base to have more discussions about Star Trek and about all of the things that we've talked about today. So they're making some really smart moves, whether you like the content or not. And it's definitely worth keeping an eye on the things that they're doing behind the scenes to promote the health of that business and the health of the Star Trek franchise going forward. It's really interesting.
Totally great point.
yeah.
Well, yeah. Thanks so much, Allison, for joining us today. And we're going to put on our contact information on a slide at the end here, but just wanted to thank everyone for joining us and for all your great conversation during the chat. And we'll let you know where you can hit us up, but have a very happy new year and stay safe and healthy, everyone. And thanks again.